Good morning and good morning to Vanita.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.
It's probably
Thanks for having me,
evening
Jan.
where some of them are, so yay.
Yeah.
Vanita, has there been big changes the last week or 2 weeks?
There's been more confirmation with regards to certain policies. There's been some announcements with an upgrade of skill level for roles and so on that's come through. And that's all flowing through from now, which is now as in September through to November. So that's where we're sitting at. And I know everybody's very eagerly waiting the parent boost visa to open at the end of the month. And you and I have been working through bits and pieces on that.
That has been
Plus,
giving me grey hairs, I promise. I've never struggled so much in my life.
yeah. Plus, we had a webinar from Immigration New Zealand last week, which sort of clarified a few more things as to what can and can't be done and so on. So I thought maybe we'd start with the parent boost, Jan, and then go on to other aspects of the immigration process. And happy to take any questions from anybody asking
Yeah.
about certain things as well.
So, guys, if you got questions, pop them up somewhere along the line. We'll see them and we'll get them. But yesterday, I was actually in a panic. I called you, and then that was for me. Yesterday was the breaking point. Because I promise you, we've been all over the world trying to get this either travel insurance / health insurance sorted for people, and we just could not do that. It's just totally impossible. So, what is the solution?
So with all policy, it's done by design. And when Immigration New Zealand started their webinar with us last week, they said to us, remember, there's other pathways for parents as well. It's not just the parent boost category, which is coming through. It's the general visitor visa as well as the parent to grandparent visitor visa. Now, they've said that for a reason, and the reason is not everybody, and they sort of had this throughout the webinar as well, is that the parent boost visa is not for everybody. Now, Jan, if you work backward and if you think about somebody getting maybe this visa, the parent boost visa twice, which is like for a 10-year period, you're probably looking at the ideal age of somebody being between 60 and 65, to be honest.
Yep. Yep.
And if you think about it, most people are not retired between the ages of 60 and 65. They're working well into their 70s, right? Because, they can and they want to, and that's part of that's part of who they are. So looking at it, remember that you've got to apply for this visa twice, or you can apply for it twice. So the way it works is when you do the first application, you apply, but you're given a 3-year sort of visa, and it has to be offshore. So one of the main questions is, if somebody holds an example, if my parent holds a parent, grandparent, and they're onshore, say they go away, they apply for this parent boost visa. Can they come in again, and can the parent boost visa be granted when they're onshore? Now, Immigration New Zealand said this, and a lot of people obviously want to game the system as well. So one is, if you hold like a parent-grandparent visa and you apply for the visa, that's not a problem. There's no wait period or anything. But the parent boost visa is granted offshore. Applied for offshore, granted offshore. Immigration New Zealand don't want you to complicate matters by having somebody onshore, and then, they may not do an approval in principle, and say, well, now you've got to leave, and then we can grant the visa. We don't know how they're going to handle this. So they said, please don't complicate matters. Also, they stressed that the parent boost visa is a temporary visa, meaning at all parts of the process, you have to prove bona fides. And when we talk about bona fides, we mean a genuine temporary stay, meaning you have to go back to whichever other country you can and then apply again, or do the balance of the 2 years and so on. So sorry, let me go back. First year, when you apply for it, you're given 3 years. Then you've got to go offshore and apply. Offshore, show that you've held your medicals, show that you meet the health. When I say medicals, is in health insurance. You meet the health criteria and also the character criteria as well. And if, for instance, Jan, in the first 3 years, somebody could very easily get medical insurance. But say in the third year or that fourth year when they're offshore, something happens and they may not be able to get the medical insurance. That means that they're not eligible for the second 2 years of that 5-year period. If you follow me.
Yeah, I follow
Yeah.
you. And that's why they
So
want them offshore, so they can say just stay
exactly.
there. Yeah.
Because it's very easy to decline a visa offshore because you're not leaving anybody in a situation where they become unlawful and then they're facing potential deportation and so on. And the undertone from immigration was that parents, because it's a temporary visa, and if they stop holding or meeting the conditions of that visa, they could be liable for deportation. And it's very important for people to understand, do you want to put your parents in that situation as well?
I've got a question there, Vanita, from my own side. If that parent arrives, I mean, at 65, geez, you're probably still well enough to do a job here.
Exactly.
Are they allowed?
No, they're not allowed. There's no work rights at all. They can take care of the grandchildren and so on, but there's no work rights or anything like that. It's purely visitor, and obviously it's to boost tourism. If you think about it, this policy, I mean, everything is done by design, Jan, and you've worked that out. It's all done by design. It benefits Immigration New Zealand, it benefits the economy, it benefits tourism and so on. Okay.
Because the main concern that we had from a financial perspective was we can help people up and until about 75 with cover for that period of time with the criteria they gave.
Correct.
After that, nobody in the world, and I've been worldwide, nobody in the world is even willing to look at this.
Yeah, and that is the reality of it. So you're not looking at people that are older than 75 coming in under this visa because they won't be able to get the health insurance, no matter how much money they have.
Right.
So you know, that's why I look at avenues like the parent-grandparent visa, where they can come in for like 6 months at a time, 18 months in total, and then go back. If you have a parent resident visa in process, maybe you can look at this parent boost visa, but it's costly as well. Because my scenario, Jan, where somebody met the criteria for 3 years but don't meet the health criteria for the balance of it, I mean, you're looking at 3,000 plus health insurance, and I don't know what health insurance is, working out to be, and so on. It's a costly visa. You know, you can look at cheaper options if you can possibly look at that.
But if you also think about the fact that you can bring your parents over and they can probably babysit for free and drive the kids around while you have a willful employment, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That money is probably well spent. That's just my 2 cents. So.
Yeah, I do agree, because childcare is so expensive. Absolutely.
Expensive.
You know, and also that family connection and so on is well worth it. So I suppose you've got to weigh up the options and see what's the best, best for your family. Also, there's no medical waivers for the parent boost visa. So if they have any of the health conditions, you can't apply for a medical waiver. It's going to be declined immediately. And possibly there will be no refunds because immigration's assessing the application. Maybe there may be partial refunds, but then you're looking at a very long time to get refunds for the application. Jan, I think you asked me the question, do they need to hold health insurance at the time of application? The answer is no, because it's going to be staged. So immigration is going to assess the first part and then say, right, now can you provide me the health insurance? Now can you provide me, all the bits and pieces? They also have to do, so the parent has to do full medicals. That's a chest x-ray and the general at the beginning of the visa application. Then they have to do it after the third year as well, because medicals are only valid for 3 years. That's another cost. And then if you go in for the second of the 5 years, they've got to do it again. And this is also police checks as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and
just
the other
bear
thing
in
is
mind.
they have to be offshore. So they've got to buy the tickets. They've got to buy everything else.
Absolutely. Because you're looking at offshore 4 times as well, at the third year and then the 5th year and then the third year again, so you need to work that out.
Is there a hard and fast rule that say they have to go back to the country of origin? So let's say they're from South Africa, can they go to Australia and do everything there and then pop back in if possible?
They can, just so long as they're lawful in that particular country. So it's not, I mean, people have kids living all over the place anyway, so they could go to their children in the UK, just so long as they have a lawful visa and they're waiting, and then they can come back again. Not a problem at all.
All right.
I mean, I have a few clients doing that.
Okay, I need to take a sidestep with you, but coming back to this as well, the English test.
Yeah.
Point 1, who don't need to do that?
So the parents on this parent visa doesn't need to do it.
Okay.
On residence, you need to show that you can speak English if you're applying for residence. Look, you can either go back to getting this is way back if you think about it, because the parents are old. Either the school can provide something if they haven't been working. Also, if they've been in an employment, their employer, if they can, they're obviously retired, but the employer can go back and do that. Otherwise, they can purchase ESOL, which is an expensive sort of exercise, but there are ways to be able to get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody is really exempt from the English test.
No, but you've got to prove, like with the parent resident category, you've got to prove that you can speak English. You're not, if you can prove it, and like from countries like South Africa, there is obviously that understanding that a lot of people do speak English, but where English is, like if you look at places like China, English is not spoken widely. So that's where they have to prove, and that's where a lot of parents buy the ESOL package and so on. They don't necessarily complete it, but they buy it to show that. And the ESOL is about $3,500-$4,000. I may be wrong; it may be more expensive, but that's what they buy and prove English. Yeah.
Okay. So the parents in these categories just have to prove that they can speak English. They don't need to physically go and write the English test.
No, they don't.
But and they still would have to write that if they go for residence and anything else.
Under the skilled category, absolutely, they have to. There was talk about the English, and Simon Laurent, one of the immigration lawyers, has been sort of lobbying for English to be reduced as well for the skilled category, but nothing's come about on that.
Because that's what I last heard, is that they're probably going to do away with that. So that hasn't been done.
No. And those who are going for residence under the skilled category would have to again pass those English tests and get the criteria for that. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's my question for the morning. So
well, don't ask me which is the easiest test I have with the English test. I have CPTE. It's online based, but it really depends on the person as well. And I really encourage people to actually go through all the practice tests. The practice tests are free, so spend maybe a month and a half before you even go and write those tests.
Where do you get this free test?
The practice tests are like when you book, you have access to the practice tests. Also, if you go to PTE or IELTS, there's practice tests available to be able to do that. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know whether. Yeah. So if there's no questions on the parent boost, that's fine. We can move on.
Let me take one comment down here. Elisma Libba saying, it seems like quite a struggle without actual stability. Isn't it better to take your chances with the EOIQ?
You could, but the thing is, the EOI for the parent category is, it's a draw. They've done 2,500 this year, but then next year they'll go back to the quota system that they're using. So you could have parents waiting a while, but you can bring them on the parent grandparent in the meantime to visit and spend time with the family. Absolutely.
Okay, so they can be waiting on the EOI and still be on the parent grandparent here.
Yes, absolutely. They can come on temporary visas. They're different categories, Jan. So they can.
Why I'm asking, Vanita, there's a type of a rumor going around, and this is purely a rumor. I'm not an immigration advisor, so I can't. But this is what I've heard: that you cannot apply for a visa and have a visa.
No. So the way it works is, so at any given time, you can only be granted or hold one particular visa.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. So if, for instance, you apply for a temporary visitor visa, okay, and then you have the visitor visa in hand, and then you apply for the parent boost visa now as a second visa, okay? Yep. So say, for instance, you've got the visitor visa that's been granted, then the parent boost visa is applied for and granted. One visa is going to fall away, and the visa that's going to fall away is your general visitor visa. And the latest
will only
visa
fall away once the other one has been
granted.
Yes. Okay.
Correct. Yes,
So
correct.
it's not a fact that once I apply for a visa, the other one falls away.
Sorry, repeat.
That's basically the rumor. The rumor is basically once you apply for a visa and you
Yeah.
have a visa, the fact that
Yes.
you've applied makes this visa that you do have fall away.
It's only on grant.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
only on grant because say for instance, if the parent boost is declined, that visitor visa, if it's still valid, still stays in place, so that doesn't fall away. But I'll give you another example. Sorry, Jan. I was going to call you another name. Sorry. I talk to too many people. I'll give you another example. So say for instance you have a parent that's applied for the parent let's see. So I'll give you an example. They've applied for the parent boost. Okay. They've got a parent resident category processing. Okay. So the parent residence is granted. So that's a permanent visa. Okay. But then the parent boost is a temporary visa. The parent boost is still in process. But say a week later, after the parent residency is granted, a week later, the parent boost is granted. One is going to cancel the other. In other words, the parent residence is going to fall away and the parent boost temporary visa is going to take effect.
Yeah.
And that is
that's
a
not what
problem.
you want.
And that's not what you want. So if that's the case, if the parent residence, which is what you've been after, and that's a permanent visa, has been granted, you need to advise immigration that you want to withdraw the parent boost visa or the general visitor visa.
Let's say you're bad luck and it does happen. Now you're sitting with a temporary visa, the permanent one has fallen away. Can you swing that around?
Yeah, you've got to do a subsequent application, which is again tricky, and you've got to plead your case to immigration and give them the timelines and hope that they will say, okay, through administrative error, or we didn't get to something on time or whatever, let's look at it. But it becomes very complicated. So just be aware that those things could potentially happen, and you've got to be on top of your visas.
Yeah. So if you get the permanent one, just don't expect the other one is going to fall away.
No, automatically, no. You've got to withdraw it. If it's still in process, you've got to withdraw it. And you've got to advise immigration you're withdrawing the application.
That's probably a good thing that people are a bit more aware of what goes on around them. A lot of people just go through live, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing that the minister has been talking about and is coming through, and it's about the overstayers and about criminal offending, about deportation, and so on. Now, really, this has come about because a lot of people are claiming asylum seeking. When they come through, they're claiming asylum. And when they claim asylum, it means that they can be granted open work rights until the case is looked at. And that could be 2 to 3 years. So you've got open work rights to be able to do whatever you want to do within that time. So a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Also, a lot of people don't have valid visas and they're overstaying and they're under the radar. So, and thankfully, when I looked at the stats, there's no South Africans mentioned on that, which is really good. So, so what the minister's doing is saying, look, if you don't have a valid visa, we're asking you to voluntarily leave. Otherwise, you are going to face deportation. Also, one of the things is, and she mentioned this in one of the articles on that whole case about those two brothers, the Jazz brothers, if you recall, and that Hoochie Mama restaurants that they ran, and they literally criminal offended, and there was a lot of sexual offending with women between a period of time as well, and they're currently in jail or facing well, actually, they've got the hearing and so on.
Okay.
So, Jan, a lot of people hold dual citizenship. Okay. And if during that time, what the minister's saying is, so either you hold dual citizenship or you hold some sort of dual thing. So a lot of the UK citizens hold the UK citizenship and permanent residence in New Zealand, and they've been living here for 10 or more years. Okay. But they go through criminal, like they have been offending and so on. The minister's talking about rescinding or removing their permanent residence because of the criminal offending, and they need to go back to their home country. So that's where she's talking about. So if you hold citizenship, there is, while we say they can't revoke it because you can't leave somebody stateless, that's according to the Hague and all the conventions and so on, and the human rights and so on. If you hold dual citizenship, if you think about it, they can revoke one if they possibly can, and send you back to wherever you need to if you've criminal offended. So don't ever think that you're safe, and you should be a law-abiding citizen throughout your life, really.
So having a few drinks because the Springboks lost on Saturday and then driving is probably not the best idea.
I think an Uber is much cheaper than all the hassles of that.
Less
Yes.
hassle.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So that's where, and I've seen that on the Facebook groups as well, that a lot of people are saying, oh, I want to make sure that I don't lose my South African citizenship because of the new rules and so on. But then, when you get New Zealand citizenship and so on, you decide, okay, I want to be naughty and do all these things and consistently do all these things that are not within the law. Just bear in mind that those things are going to change, and you could face.
So you can revoke your New Zealand citizenship.
Well, that's what they're talking about doing.
Yeah.
If you hold that, for one, like for me, I don't hold my South African citizenship, so they can't leave me stateless if I've done something really bad, okay? Because that means, where do I go, But
right.
if you've decided to keep dual citizenship, then there's a possibility that they will say, go back.
Yeah. So how do you give up my citizenship? You never know what happens.
Yeah. So just be aware that those are the changes that are happening, and they're moving towards what the rest of the world is moving towards as well. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and I see this happen, or the questions are being asked. Say, for instance, you lose your job, and if you're an employer, is an accredited employer, they have an obligation under their accreditation to let immigration know that you are no longer employed with them. Okay. Now, people say, what is reasonable? Because immigration says reasonable time to find another job. And people ask, what is reasonable time? And that is not defined in immigration law in any way. However, you can't go under the radar for 3 to 6 months without a job, working, trying to find something. You need to tell immigration you have lost your job. Because the thing is, say, for instance, 6 months later, or even 18 or 12 months later, you find another job because you have family support and so on to be able to sort of financially be sustainable during that time. When you apply for the next visa, immigration are going to catch you under false and misleading. One, you didn't tell them that your circumstances have changed, because under your accredited employer work visa or your visa, your obligation is to tell them your circumstances have changed. And you're going to get caught under false and misleading. And the chances are they may not approve that visa. So be very careful of that. A lot of things have changed. Everything's very tight right now, Jan, in the sense that even if you made a small mistake by saying you were married, but you were never married in your first application, and your second application you say you're single, you're getting caught and called under that to explain what's going on.
So the practical side of this, I mean, that's where your experience comes in. I lose my job. I now tell immigration, oh, sorry, bro, I haven't got a job. How long until they tell me to take my bags and go?
Look, the rule of thumb is what we're looking at is 4 to 6 weeks is when you should actually be able to change your circumstances and find something else. Anything longer than that really starts getting questionable. Okay. And I'm saying this, just remember, I'm making a disclaimer. That's the rule of thumb. Okay.
Yeah. No, I fully understand it. I'm just want to have an idea. It's not the next day they tell you to go.
Exactly. But, like a reasonable time is maybe 4 to 6 weeks is when they're expecting you to find something else. If you can't, and if it starts getting longer and longer, then you really need to consider leaving without having any, questions under your status and so on. And then you can come back at a later stage with no questions, or go to another country with no questions.
All right. I just want to put your disclaimer on here that Vanita Hurbuns is really a registered immigration advisor. So,
I
guys,
am.
yeah, if there's any questions for Vanita, you can get hold of her either on our website, Moving to NZ, or under immigration or admin at a2nzimmigration.com.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of the other things I think, one of the things that we are seeing is for 2 years, immigration did not look at ANSCO, which is a skill level. So a lot of employers did their own job checks and so on, and they chose whichever ANSCO they thought was the right one for the workers.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are now applying for the 2-year visa extension, which is their maximum continuous stay because they've only been granted 3 years, or they're going towards residence. Now,
Okay.
this is where the skill level is coming under question. Immigration are saying, no, they don't believe that you are in a skilled role and so on. So there's a lot of declines happening for the maximum continuous stay, which is the 2 years.
Yeah.
And also at residence, they're questioning and saying it's not a substantial match. We don't believe you've been in a skilled role, so we are possibly declining your application. So just be aware that these are the things that are happening with immigration. They are looking at things very, while they're processing quite quickly, they've got a lot of, they've made a lot of changes and they've automated a lot of systems within their processes. So they are looking at these things very closely. So if you feel or you're uncertain, and you want to do your application on your own, still get some help with certain aspects of it if you're unsure, just to make sure and have peace of mind that is where you're at. Sorry.
If I can give my thoughts on immigration and this whole thing, you got to do it right from the very start up, not this way or that way around. It's a very expensive exercise. Everything costs a lot of money, and to come all this way and spend a lot of money and not be able to stay or get residence, I mean, that would, geez, that'll break me. I promise you. I'm in that situation, it would have broken me. Especially if I thought I was smart.
And that's the thing, Jan, look, I mean, immigration have put everything on the website, and I know that, in fact, they've made the website much more robust, saying what documents you need to collect and so on. The thing is, though, there's always something behind it. It's because they don't want to deal with immigration practitioners. Let's just say, because we know exactly how to advocate for our clients when they say something is not correct. Now, the reason why they've put everything on there is for you to do a DIY, and then you not know how to advocate for yourself. And then you end up in this whole mess of, and becomes very complex. So while people are smart, and yes, there are people that will be able to do it, it's not as easy as one may think. I mean, look, I've got close to 10 years experience in the immigration industry and been practicing in there. And this is currently the hardest we've ever seen, or the most difficult we've ever seen, with all the queries that are coming back from immigration. Now, the reason is our unemployment is really high, and we have a lot of low-skilled people that came in when the borders opened, and they just came in without being assessed and so on. So immigration don't want you to necessarily stay. They want you to leave. They don't want you to get residence, or they don't want you to get another work visa, because we need to take care of the New Zealand citizens or residents first. Now, there's a change coming on the 3rd of November, where immigration have taken about 33 odd roles that were lower skilled, and they've actually said that these are now going to be treated as a skill level 3 or higher role, meaning that those people will be able to apply for the 2-year maximum continuous stay, which is the extension on the accredited employer work visa. And the reason for this is, if you think about it logically, is because those people are all due to go home. Immigration New Zealand don't want to be processing extra visas to have more or new people come in, because they have a 1-year stand down, 12-month stand down period. Okay. So what they've done is they've went, okay, those roles, we need those people in, our employers need those people, and we don't want to retrain them. Let's bump up their skill level, let them get the 2-year extension. So that covers them for this covers Immigration New Zealand and the employer for another 2 years, and then let's make some changes afterwards. There's no guarantee of residence on that, by the way. So just be aware that everything is by design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can say something about that, if you are thinking of coming to New Zealand just to do the job and then go home, I don't think it's a very wise decision, because it's an expensive country. I don't know how much money you will go home. There's other countries in the world where you probably get better salary and take more money home at the end of the day. So yeah. All right, we've reached our time limit.
Yes. Thank you.
Any last wise words from you?
Look, just reach out. If you're uncertain, reach out. If you're doing residence on your own, it's $6,500. Reach out to somebody, if you're unsure of certain things. There's application checking services out there. There's even ANSCO, where somebody would check and say, yes, I can verify that and put that their name to what they've done, so that you have some recourse, because we have professional liability. So if something goes wrong, we have recourse to remedy that. Whereas if you do it on your own, you don't, unfortunately. So reach out to your advisor or practitioner.
Will you be willing to give somebody an hour of your time at a fee just to help them along? Or
yes, we do a full ANSCO report for anybody looking at it, and we put our names to that as well, which you can provide to Immigration New Zealand. We do a full application checking service. There's various services we provide for that as well, Jan. So you can do a DIY, cut your costs down if you want to, but have some peace of mind.
And just some backup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Guys and girls, if you like what we're doing, and thanks to Vanita this morning, if you like what we're doing, please click like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so that you can see more of this crazy stuff we do behind the scenes. Vanita, thank you very much for your time this morning. All right, we'll pop off, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.